Greetings, this is Gilles Mancier. I wanted to come briefly to say hello, pull out a few cards and discuss a couple of subjects, more spiritual subject. Today, the highest wisdom for us is optimism. We have to stay positive, we have to stay focused on optimism. For no matter what the circumstances may be, there is nobody knows what really will happen tomorrow. And so we may as well prepare for something good. What we need to understand is patience, to allow ourselves to be patient. For this idea of patience is very important. For life is a mirror. It will continue to mirror to us what we need until we are ready for what we are asking for. What we need to do is liberation. We have to free ourselves. We have to access this vertical aspect of the self in order to free ourselves and move into the light. And the general message for us today is accomplishment. It is completion. It is the fulfillment of a cycle. So it is very much a very important time, very important day. I hope you enjoy it as much as possible. Prepare for celebration. I wanted to bring a few concepts, just a few ideas. Of course, they're just ideas. The idea is that faith. The idea of faith is the supreme expression in the human mind. It is the realization of the ability of transcending itself. Because before we are able to see in the invisible world, we have to believe. For believing is seeing. If we do, it is not seeing is believing. It is the opposite. It is really about believing before we are about to see. For what is spirit? In essence, spirit is a mystery. It is the origin of all things. It is all-inclusive. Yet there is a great mystery in the relationship between the unity of spirit in the origin and the physical manifestation of matter. And so in essence we are spirit, but the lowest octave of the spirit is the ego. The highest octave is God, and in between there's all kinds of possibility of a whole ladder of evolution of the spirit itself. For we understand that God is omniscient and omnipotent, so that means if he's omniscient, that means he knows all things, he knows good and bad. If he did not know evil, then he could not be called omniscient, the things he wouldn't know yet, but he uses all of ignorance and lucidity, all of it, he uses it in the perfect wisdom of the infinite mind in order to educate and help the universe grow. But he's not omniscient. That means although he knows everything, it is not his personal will that carries out all the things in the universe, for he has given us free will. And even if one day our will will be fully aligned with the will of God, of the universal Father, we'll be fully in the love of supremacy, we will still have free will, and so therefore God will probably never be omniscient, although at the end of the end there must be one that is realized, and at which point we cannot limitate God in any form. I was talking about that a human, in many sense, we are made to make mistakes. We have to learn from our mistakes and not repeat the same mistake. But the mistake is part of the process. We have to aspire to make always higher mistakes, because a mistake becomes a sin only when we associate ourselves voluntarily with an immoral choice. Once we make an immoral choice that is conscious that it is immoral, yet we still make it, at which point we are in rebellion against the law of one. But other than that, we can, and even if we do that, we can still forgive ourselves and move into the path of freedom. For in many sense, we have to know ourselves for who we are, how we are the child of the earth. First, we are the child, soon we'll become child of the sun, and then child of the universe, and then eventually child of the Creator, of God. If God is the Lord of love and we are His children, then that gives us a certain sovereignty within the kingdom of God. So we have to, as we understand our origin, we regain that our place within the kingdom of God, and we are elevated. It's a very long and slow path, but the ascension process is not about being bored playing harp on the clouds. It is a very accelerated form of consciousness. It starts with the gamma consciousness. For in many sense, we are working, we are educated to work with a beta frequency brainwave, which is the pure response to the outer world. The electromagnetic pulse in the mind that makes us respond to the outer world. We have learned the alpha state, which is the state of peace within and still in connection with the outer world, but from a serene state. Theta and delta are deeper states that we experience in in sleep time. But there is above, there is the gamma ray, which is the superactive hyperspace consciousness that we can always find, draw from, connect to, and it's always there. And so we'll learn to develop that connection. For there is a great deal of, we want to find an experience that's quite symmetrical, the circle of eternity. Everything is in order. It is like a great circle. Everything is perfect within it. It is just whenever we move into time, space details, we move into situations that are often calling for transformation, alchemical process. There was a philosophical question that I heard, it was a divine counselor in the Urantia book that was questioning the fact he could not understand how God the Father could suffer. Yet we know those things because God hasn't spoken that much, but he said, I the Lord, change not. He said, we created you in our own image. He said, be you perfect as I am perfect. He said, in all your suffering, I am afflicted. Those are things that we don't know much about the origin of God, but there are certain things that we know, and so from those ideas we can understand that God suffers through us, because if God couldn't. If God did not know suffering, he could not call himself omniscient. He had to experience that, although of course it is very difficult because it has to be in a modified sense, for God is God and cannot suffer in the sense that the ego suffers. But in many sense, God appreciate all the natures, all its nature, as we are tendency to want to transcend our lower nature, for it is part of our past to ascend, to return to the source, to the pure. Yet once we find the pure, we have to integrate the whole, for God is one and the whole universe is one. Yet in the spiritual path, there is a path of choice, and so we have to make intelligent decision in relationship to how we choose to direct our energy. For we do not know what we know is that God is the great I Am, the Eternal Trinity of being that was ancestral to all things, and since the cosmos and the universe was created, this Paradise Trinity has not changed. No change has been recorded. God has not changed, and so we know that this existential Trinity is the guarantee that life will continue to exist. For if it wasn't there, nothing would exist. And so, but there is also an experiential part of deity that is the supreme, the ultimate, and the absolute, which is self-realization of the values of supremacy, truth, beauty, and goodness, the Platonician ideal. Within that, there is a return to the source that is contained, and then we'll find to look for God on the transcendental level, the ultimate level. The universe and of the universes cannot contain God, for God is an infinite being. If God would come and touch a universe with his finger, everything would disappear. Only the love of God would remain, and so God remains outside of the universe. Is an invisible presence. Or if it's a very subtle. I'm sure it can be seen by certain beings. Can probably see the Trinity, the presence of the absolutes within time and space, but it requires a lot of presence. Another thing that kind of interested me, that I've just learned, that was the understanding that matter is not part of deity. All of this, which is non-personal, that is non-personalizable, non-deifiable, is just a concept, something that has been created to support the realization of that emerging self, existential deity. Yet on Paradise, everything, the matter and the spirit, for Paradise is not deity. Paradise responds, it's an absolute reality, as the Eternal Son is an absolute spiritual reality. Paradise is an absolute non-personal reality, and which responds to the will of the Trinity, and so it is highly serviceable, and it is from Paradise that everything was created. For once we will avail our thoughts to this knowledge, we'll be eternally free, and we'll move into a new cycle. Well, I hope this message was interesting for you. I don't want to make it too long. I'm going to finish with a very little song. It's a light song. It goes like this. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand, In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Well, thank you very much. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later. Namaste.